All right, for those of you who are called in to the system, just please make sure that you've got your computer audio muted and that you're using just your phone for audio purposes, okay? Otherwise, it creates a ring in the system. So while you're waiting, please mute the phone, your cell phone or your landline that you're on, and then when you need to talk, you can unmute from there. You can also use the chat function if you have a question or you have an issue or something that's going on. Please just use that, and we'll address you once we see the chat come up.
We're getting feedback.
So we've got somebody with a mute unmiked or unmuted.
What's his name from MRTC?
That's better. Thank you.
I need this. He says I have a lead on mass. How am I doing it?
Hello. I have Marion on and Matt on. Anyone else?
I'm still here, Maria.
Maria, got Maria, okay. So I have Maria, Marion, and Matt on phones. Is anybody else on phones? Roger that.
John Burmeister's here.
John, thank you. Okay. All right, we're ready. You good, Mr. Corey? Roger that. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I call the City Council meeting for Wednesday, March 25th to order. Again, as our country and world deals with COVID-19, and now as you hear that our community is starting to have cases, please look out for your teammates, your buddies, especially the elderly. Keep your distance, but also check on them periodically, and certainly followed the CDC guidelines. So we'll have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Alderwoman Dickman, if you'd lead us in the pledge from your location.
Be happy to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I'll try and be patient and slow because I know there's a little time between us. So, Brian, if you'd be kind enough to call the roll.
Dunn. Here. Dorman. Dorman.
Okay.
Here. McGinnis.
Here.
Lee. Grip.
Here.
Condon. Here. Peacock. Dickman.
Here.
Jobjen. And Ambrose.
Here.
We've got 7 present, Your Honor.
Roger, we have a quorum. Thank you, Brian.
I am
Hello?
also present.
Oh. Lee, you're present. We have 8 present, Your Honor.
Roger.
Pat's having issues logging in, so he'll probably be here. I'll send him another thing, and then
Yeah, we got Matt. Ben, you on? Patrick, you on? No. Okay, we'll continue. Yep. Okay, thank you, Brian. So protocol decorum, because as we did last Wednesday, we have a different situation where some of our colleagues on the council are calling in. So we'll pause and know that there's a little time gap from hearing them. Please remember, everyone, that we are being fed to the community, so respect as we always do. If you do have cell phones or any other electronic, make sure they're on mute, especially you folks that are on the audio. Brandon's out in the hallway. He'll let us know if there's public. Ms. Spiegel and him are in contact, so we'll do this like we did last week, but it worked very well, so thank you. All right. Will an alderman please move?
Mayor,
Miss
this is
Lee?
Judith. I called in a little late. I apologize.
Yeah, we
I'm
got you.
on.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay.
Okay. Will an alderman please move approval of the city council meeting minutes for March 11th? I have a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Very good. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion's been moved and seconded, and it's approved. Good. Is there any, I know we have, Ms. Spiegel, you have a good COVID-19 update for us, so we'll listen to that. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This will be a little more lengthy than normal, but it's probably the first time when we've been able to get together and provide a more comprehensive update. So staff began its COVID-19 preparations on March 6th when a meeting was called for the local governments and our local healthcare systems with Dr. Katz. I'd like to spend some time talking about what we've been doing since. So for those who have asked kind of what our routine meetings are, there are many are every day or every week. So there are 3 different coalition briefings. One is a larger group, one is the governments for the region, and then the PIO group. Those are all coordinated.
Sorry, if you haven't muted her, if we could make sure we're all quiet here while she gives this briefing, I'd appreciate it. There's some background noise. Thank you.
So those 3 groups are coordinated through the EMA, which I'll talk about in a little more. Davenport, Bentdorf, and Scott County, the mayors, the chair, and the administrators all talk routinely through the week. Our department head team meets every morning to do a briefing of the current situation. After that, both police and fire have a briefing with their command staffs. Both police and fire also participate in routine meetings out at the Emergency Operations Center. And then once a week, administration, HR, and our 6 bargaining groups get together and discuss current needs. So primary coordination and response. The city is very involved in all of this, but under the Scott County Emergency Management Agency's authority. So they are the primary agency for the pandemic response. And they coordinate all of our joint meetings. We're working with them through supply needs and all of those types of things. So it's important that we maintain our regional relationship. The actual health side of it is governed by the Scott County and Rock Island County Health Department. So they're taking the lead in partnership with our healthcare providers in Genesis, Trinity, and Community Healthcare. People have asked about what they can do to help or donations. The Salvation Army of the Quad Cities is our donation point, especially for things that are in critical need right now, things like PPE, masks, especially the N95 masks, surgical gowns, goggles, gloves, etc. And they've asked that you call 563-324-4808 to coordinate drop-offs because certain supplies are going to different locations. And on behalf of our organization, I wanted to say thank you for community support that we've been receiving. One of our local businesses, Industrial Technology Corporation on Rockingham Road, has actually manufactured hand sanitizer for us in a bulk quantity, and we were able to get that down into more personal quantities and get those into our police and fire apparatus so that our first responders are safe in the field. And then our local restaurants and some of our retailers have been extremely gracious in taking good care of our public safety personnel, and we'll be sharing some of that information on social media in the coming days. So speaking of personnel, as we'd shared with the council over the last week, we enacted 2 administrative policies, one associated with addressing emergencies when they happen, and then a specific response associated with COVID-19. I think one of the great things that happened with the COVID-19 response is that all 6 of our bargaining units signed off, including HR. So it was an extraordinary, about 3 days of work between our HR department and our bargaining units to come up with a policy that all of our personnel are bound by, and has really set up a great set of parameters for our employees as we go through this. As of today, we have 43 full-time employees in travel quarantine. Much of that related to the timing of spring break, but the majority of those employees will be back to work full-time on Monday, April 6th. And we've been working, Mallory and I, on finalizing the classifications of essential and non-essential personnel under CISA guidelines, should we find our state in a stay-at-home provision from the governor. And then I'll provide a couple service area updates. So public safety, Chief Sikorsky and Chief Carlson have been working tirelessly with their management teams and our personnel. A huge kudos to Local 17 and UPPO. Basically, they've given all of their vacation time back this month. Anybody who had time off, Kelly days or otherwise, is coming back to work to make sure that we can have basically minimum staffing covered without a lot of stress on the other employees. They've done so very, very graciously, and their support all the way along has been really remarkable and appreciated. And luckily, we have 4 new recruits that were going through the Fire Academy, and they will be coming to the field a little early next week, but they are ready. And so we'll see them in the field starting on Sunday. Public Works and Neighborhood Services, Streets and Sewers have the beauty of social distancing because they're outside most of the time. So yes, the pothole crews are out right now. Transit is still free to our riders, so we can limit the contact with our bus drivers at this point. And then we are evaluating suspending Sunday service at this time. Ridership is very, very low on Sunday, and we wanted to give the opportunity to have our buses deep cleaned once a week, and suspending Sunday ridership would allow us to do that. A special thanks to our solid waste crew who has been picking up everyone's spring cleaning and decluttering projects from being at home. And a reminder that free yard waste pickup begins Monday, April 6th. So for those of you who are at home, next week would be a great week to do yard waste pickup ahead of free time. Flood update, we are fortunate in the current forecast, which remains below major flood level. And then our Neighborhood Services Department is continuing our code enforcement efforts and has actually transitioned some staff into evening parking garage monitoring. So we're taking a closer look at our ramps during the night. Revenue has also changed what they're doing with electronic payments, and we've suspended all of our collection efforts through June 1st, including assessing late fines. So that's good. Reminder on our city facilities. So City Hall, the Police Department, and Public Works remain limited access, so they are open, but we meter that to appointments only. The Ground Transportation Center and the Sky Bridge are closed. Main and Eastern libraries are closed to the public. However, the drive-through remains open at the Fairmount Library. The Harrison ramp has free parking. River Center and Redstone remain with no changes. River's Edge, Junior Theater, and the Roosevelt Community Center are all currently closed to the public. So we had a question from a few of you about, we can't even fathom what our small businesses are going through right now. So what kind of support is in place for them? So from community planning and economic development for those businesses that have loans with the city under the small business loan program, that we basically have a 90-day hold period where we won't be incurring any late fees or any penalties, and we will be allowing deferred payments. The state, we've seen and we've been pushing out that information as well as our partners through IDA and the programs that the state has made available. The website they had some extra bandwidth open up last night, so it's gotten better. And then I think we're all watching very closely what the federal government will be doing in terms of programs from the SBA and others, but with what passed last night, it's a little early to know the full details of that. The remainder of the memo, I had asked for some additional information from both the Chamber and Visit Quad Cities. So while the city's primary focus right now is on our essential services and specifically public safety, our focus with our small businesses, we've allowed and asked for support from the Chamber and Visit Quad Cities. They've been doing a fantastic job sharing information, reaching out to the delegation, and so I included a ton of information that they had provided to me that I won't go through in detail because they've been sharing that through their means as well. So that's a big, long update, and we will continue to revise it as things change, which I think the mayor can attest to. Being here is about every other hour right now. But as we see community spread in Davenport and the Quad Cities, continue social distancing, our communications team is going to be putting out more and more information about what does that actually mean. I think we, in conversations even within City Hall, have different definitions of what that means, and making sure that we're all taking the appropriate precautions to limit the impact in our region.
Thank you, Ms. Spiegel. And I just want to add, I have witnessed since the start of this what I would simply call an amazing team effort from the folks in this building and every other building that we own. The attitude is such that whenever and as Ms. Spiegel mentioned, the changes come all the time, whether it's through a conference call that we hear something new or someone sends a text or a health department sends a memo or whatever. All you see and all you witness is the city staff here going, got it, here's what we need to do, we're talking to someone, now we can do this. It is an immediate, how can we fix, how can we adjust, how can we do it, with the understanding that we want to keep our city government working for the citizens of Davenport. Our first line folks like fire, police, and public works that are out there with the public doing their job, is when I visited with all of them, I said, we ask a lot of people right now in the world, the nation, the state, the community, to go away, to stay home, to not interact, but they just keep doing their job. They are the reason we are, government is doing what they do. And our staff just simply, and Ms. Spiegel and Sarah and the folks here and the department heads, again, something comes, something shows up, a new directive, a new policy, a new way to do business, whether it's something that we hear from each day, the Rock Island or Scott County Health Department, or or someone else, they just take a note and go execute it. And Mallory, and I want to emphasize what she and the unions sat right in here and negotiated. The whole attitude was yes, yes, yes. Got it. We're here to help. What can we do for the betterment of Davenport? So anybody who's listening, watching, know that the staff and everybody involved in your government is doing an outstanding job. And I'm just, all I'm doing and all I'm saying here is I'm just happy to witness this operation going on. So thank you, Ms. Spiegel. I'll go to Mr. Ambrose, and then I'll call on anybody else up top on the phones. If anybody here, I can see if you're wanting to talk. Oh, Ambrose, then I got, and I know you're in different places, but I see who you are. So it's kind of interesting. Alderman Ambrose.
Thank you, Honor. First off, I'm not afraid to say it, but that's why we're America's greatest city. Time in, time out, day in, day out. Our city administrator has the greatest team, and I am incredibly proud of what we do every day. And the upside is, our great president says, hopefully by Easter, we're going to get back in the saddle and get things squared away.
Okay, Alderman Grip.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do have a couple of things. The first thing I'd like to start off with is, JJ, we had our plans thwarted a few weeks ago. We know that St. Patrick's Day is your holiday, and you were looking forward to it, and we were looking forward to it, and it was your 39th birthday. And, you know, just a week before, you'd come into a meeting with the largest Red Bull can, the industrial-sized Red Bull can, and we got you a City of Davenport cup with one of your famous quotes on it and some pictures of your first term that you're going to enjoy, and it should fit the entire Red Bull in there for the meetings that we have in the coming months. So, what's that? 39 years of walking and chewing gum is what it says. So I'll give that to you in proper social distancing terms. You can come and pick it up on your way out and then clean it when you get home.
Probably better I don't drink that now.
Correct, yes, you'll have the jitters.
Thank you.
Happy
That was
birthday.
kind of you.
And then secondly, if Brandon would step into the room, could he do that?
He just was, then he went out.
He was just in the room. Okay. We're under 10 still, so. Hey, I just found out that tonight is going to be Brandon's last council meeting, aside from the special council meeting tomorrow with us, right? And
This conference will now be recorded.
he's going to his new role early, obviously in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, the new city that he's going to, DeSoto, right? Is that right? DeSoto has asked you to come there early, and rightfully so. And I just wanted to say that I've really enjoyed working with you these past almost 5 years. I've found you to be extremely capable, very talented. You've put this city on really good financial footing. I've also found you to be a man of high character and integrity, and it's a great loss for the city of Davenport, a gain for DeSoto. And I just wanted to personally thank you for your service to the city, and I wish you and your family best of luck in your new role.
Alderman Grip, we might have to put a travel ban on, so, right? Good. Okay, thank you. I just want to say thanks to Brandon too, and it's been, he is a key person. During this pandemic, we're able to do things because the council years ago said to him and Ms. Spiegel, we need to get this fund balance squared away, and we need to have a rainy day fund, and if something happens, by gosh, we got to have some money to be able to react to stuff. This is a terrible thing that's going on, but because of your work, we're able to deal with that in a way that we're not asking people for other monies and readjusting. You're just doing it. So, yeah, I agree. A loss for us, gain for DeSoto. We wish you the best, safe travels, and please keep in contact. I know there was an agreement with Linda, so we will make sure you live up to that, or we will put that travel ban in. Thank you very much. So, let's see, anybody on the phone have any comments about what Ms. Spiegel kind of talked about, the COVID? Okay, I'm pausing still a little bit. Anyone? Just to make sure. Okay, thank you. We'll move on then.
Mayor, just for the people that aren't here, I just wanted the other council members to know that Brandon keeps leaving the room to wipe away the tears.
That's very nice of him. To social distance wiping. Thank you. All right, let's see. Anyone else? Last chance. Okay, thank you, Ms. Spiegel, for that update. Will an alderman move approval of the report of the committee of the whole for March 18th? Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
I think we have more ayes than we need, but we're good. Any opposed? Very good. Okay, thank you. That's approved. Okay, we have a bunch of appointments this evening. I'll read them all and then ask for a motion to approve or any discussion. So we have the Riverfront Improvement Commission, Neil Cosman, 5th Ward, new appointment, and William Ashton, 6th Ward, reappointment. Citizens Advisory Committee, Mark Holloway, reappointment. Dave Woods, new appointment. Joseph Olberton, reappointment. Austin Bird, reappointment. Tushar Patel, new appointment. Jim Hepner, reappointment. Reagan Johnson, reappointment. Tammy Lord, reappointment. Chad Kiefer, reappointment. Joe Winkler, new appointment. Elizabeth Hodges, reappointment. Christy Miller, reappointment. Dale Gilmore, reappointment. Fred Clausen, reappointment. Christina Kelly, reappointment. Design Review Board, George Rashid, new appointment. Planning and Zoning, Steve Garrington, reappointment. Barbara Maness, reappointment. Anyone from the council have any concerns with any of these? Okay, I'll ask for a motion to approve and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed? I think we're good, yeah. Okay, hope. Okay, thank you. Those are all approved. Next item is petitions and communications, council members and the mayor. Does anyone have anything for this evening? Alderman Ambrose.
Thank you, Your Honor. You know, this is a great opportunity for family members to get out and take a walk around the neighborhood, maybe do a little pickup of the trash, and if you see potholes or anything that might concern you, call City Hall or Public Works and report them. And if you plan on having a neighborhood cleanup call Tiffany at City Hall and we can help you with trash bags and whatever it takes. But, the city of Davenport needs a good spring cleaning, and with people home, I think it'd be a great opportunity, especially get the kids out and get some fresh air, cleaning up the neighborhood. Thanks.
Very good. Okay, I see Alderwoman McGinnis.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the census tonight. We are working on a door hanger campaign. We're starting to put that out very carefully to apartment complexes, and we're taking great care in how those materials are handled before they go out of the city. And I want to thank all of the Downtown Partnership for the downtown apartments and all our other apartment complexes that are the managers who are working with us to do this. So that will hopefully we will have over 3,000 out of our 20,000, and we will continue to work on that, the rest of the neighborhoods as that settles, as our situation here settles. I also want to challenge everybody tonight, everybody on the council and everybody listening in. I want you to call 5. First of all, go online or go on the phone or use your paper form if you have it and do your census. And then I want you to call 5 friends. Everybody's sitting at home. Nobody has a lot to do. Call 5 people and suggest they do the census. So be a census champion. Help us get the word out in this time when we would ordinarily be having meetings, and we would be having events, and we'd be bringing people together to do this. Let's do this virtually, and I challenge everybody in the city tonight to call 5 people. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. McGinnis. Mr. Jobson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you again for all of your leadership during these times. Thank you to staff for ample amounts of communication to keep those of us that can't be there informed as to what's going on. Alderwoman McGinnis, you'd be thankful to know that I have completed my census, and I will definitely make 5 phone calls at least this evening from home. My biggest communication is that my ward meeting was scheduled for Tuesday, April 7th. I continue to plan to conduct that meeting, but we'll do so virtually through Zoom or GoToMeeting, however it is best arranged. I will communicate through my Facebook page as well as the 6th Ward email distribution list that I have set up. And I look forward to any communication from those within the 6th Ward as well as within the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alderman Peacock, do you have a comment? Okay, my mistake. Anyone else? I'm pausing, so. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, very good. We'll move on then. We have 3 individual approval items on the discussion agenda. The first one is a first consideration of an ordinance providing for the sale and issuance of not to exceed $51,225,000 general obligation corporate and refunding bond series 2020, and for the levy of taxes to pay the same. So I'll ask our finance director, Brandon Wright, to come up, and I'm going to give a little leeway to him to kind of tell me how to do what we're going to do, because there's maneuvering and some changes. So just understand that's what we're doing. So if there's any mics that are still on, please mute them because there's feedback a little bit. It's better right now, though. Okay, Mr. Wright, please.
Thank you, Brandon Wright, CFO and Assistant City Administrator. And I do want to just make sure real fast. John Burmeister, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm on.
Okay, wonderful, excellent. I will need his help here in a minute. Today was a very unusual situation for a bond sale. Right now, obviously, with everything going on, the financial markets are acting in ways that are not typical for how a typical bond sale would go. We've been very lucky in this endeavor to have John Burmeister and PFM engaged in looking out for the city's best interest as it relates to the bond sale. I sent you an email a little bit earlier, but just in quick summary, you have the option of going to the municipal bond market for interest rates related to our bond issuance. Another less used option is to do what's called a private placement, which essentially finds a kind of a local bank type of a situation. You go and you kind of work with them on outlining what that interest rate would look like. Now, typically that is going to be a higher interest rate than what the bond market would provide for you, so typically it's not used. In this situation, however, it turns out that it's quite a bit favorable to the city to be able to use private placement. So I'll walk you through the mechanics of it after John Burmeister maybe has a little bit of an opportunity to provide you with some of the details of today's the bond market bids that came in, as well as the private placement. So John, if you want to kind of go through that update.
All right, very good. Thank you, Brendan. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, very good. So as Brandon indicated, the municipal bond market, I became severely dislocated. It's been so dislocated, it hasn't been that dislocated since the Great Depression. It was actually increasing while United States Treasury rates were decreasing. In fact, on the low interest rates we were received on March 9th, and then the next 14 days, they actually shot up by 2%. In a 14-day period, which is unprecedented, I think, in history. And a lot of the deals that were getting bid either were getting delayed, canceled, one bidder, and if there was a bid, it was like 3, 4, or 5% because there was some opportunistic purchasing out there. So we worked with Brandon and the city staff. We felt that we needed a kind of an alternative for the city, because I guess 3 days ago, we didn't know if we were going to get any bids. We didn't know if the rates were going to be 4.5%. And so we came up with, as Brandon indicated, this private placement alternative. And so we went in today's market having what I'll call a plan B. So then if the municipal bond market bidding process failed us, we had an alternative option. So I guess it's pleasing for me to at least see that the competitive market is starting to recover. We saw a 20 basis point decrease in interest rates yesterday. Today they dropped over 0.5%. So we're still up 1.2% where we were from March 9th. So with the Fed announcing their activities as well as Congress reaction to their stimulus bill, I think the fear market is leaving the market, and now there's a little bit more greed coming in. We did notice a dislocation of the municipal bond market relative to financial institutions. And so this evening, you'll see that there are some results of sale, and as Brandon indicated, the result, we ended up getting 11 bids today. The low bid was a 2.46%, almost a 2.47. And we also then, and that wasn't a bad result. We were very pleased with that. Simultaneously with that process, the city pivoted to see what the Plan B alternative would produce, and we were able to locate a financial institution located out of Colorado called Key Government Finance, and they are offering the city at 2.07%, which is 40 basis points lower than the competitive bidding. And so when we compared those two results, this lower bid from the financial institution is going to save the city another $1,068,000 relative to the competitive bidding process. So it's a little unorthodox tonight, so that PFM would recommend that the City Council reject the bids received from the competitive bidding process. And then as Brandon indicated, tomorrow at 4, the city would then adopt the ordinance to approve the 2.07%, which would then lock in the lower borrowing cost. And I'm also very, very pleased. When we set this up in December, we had a couple refunding opportunities, the 2012A and the 2012D bonds. A couple days ago, those produced negative savings. And with the market readjusting, and then with this private placement at a 2.07, I'm pleased to tell that the city with this on those two transactions will save $1,296,000 below what you were paying on those previously. On a present value basis, almost $1.2 million that you saved at a 6.02% savings ratio. And obviously, the market requires a 3%. We'd always like to see 5%. So the fact that we're achieving a 6% savings on this transaction in light of where we've been for the last 15 days, it's been pretty remarkable. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brandon or if anyone has any other questions for the next steps.
All right, thank you, John. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions, but I think first, if I remember correctly, we didn't move to consideration on that, so maybe that would be appropriate before we talk about amendments.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion from aldermen or alderwomen? And I'll just say, great job. This is a great way. I mean, I hate again that you're leaving, but you're saving us $1 million or more. So, daggum.
Yep, that works out pretty well.
All right. Anyone from up top on the phone? Public with comment? No public, sir? Anybody? Anybody out there? Mallory?
Matt, go Mayor. Yeah.
Matt, go ahead. Alderman Dorman.
Just to clarify if I heard that right, you guys are recommending we vote no on this ordinance tonight, and then tomorrow's meeting is when we would then be voting yes to have the bank do it. Is that?
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. Maybe at this point, I'll kind of walk through the steps that we need to take to do this correctly on our side. And Tom Warner is listening and can correct me if I'm wrong at this point. Now that it's moved to consideration, at this point, what we would recommend is a motion that would reflect the rejection of all bids within this ordinance for that. And the reason to do that is that we do need to record somehow the city actually rejecting bids in order to make that private placement option available to us. So you would actually make a motion to reject all bids within this ordinance, and then you would approve that ordinance, that rejected bid ordinance, if you want to call it that, suspend the rules and approve that again. So that is just a little bit unusual, that process, to record that we rejected those bids within our ordinance process there. So if someone's interested in that, that would be a good
So
motion.
first one, I'll entertain a motion to reject all bids. A move and a second?
And that would be an amendment to, or sorry, a motion to amend the ordinance reflecting the rejection of all bids, is that correct?
Okay,
Just for
so
the
I'll
record.
restate
Yeah.
again, a motion to amend and reject all bids. So same motion, same second. Okay, voice vote, Tom? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good, that carries.
Very good. Then at this point, then you have the ordinance back on the rejected bid ordinance, which again, with receiving a yes vote, would effectually reject those bids and move it through our process to record that it's been rejected.
Okay, so we already did the ordinance, now we're, entertain a motion and a second to approve with the amendment. After, yep. So motion and a second to do that?
So moved.
Okay, second. Okay, now discussion, Alderman Ambrose.
Thank you, Honor. John, are you there?
Yes.
John, you know, with the stability of the banks now, have you done this in the past? You've been with the city forever. Have you gone with a second tier in the past that you're, like we're planning on doing now?
Yes, we have implemented this approach quite often, and so this would be a loan to the local bank, to the bank, and so the city would then be responsible for paying principal and interest to the bank. So the financial institution is buying the credit of the city of Davenport, and they're fixing this interest rate in. So I think it really protects the city from the perspective that if something's happening at the bank, you just keep making your normal payments and you're kind of insulated from that.
Yeah, that would be my concern too, because, you know, following what's going on in the stability of our banks. But you're confident that this bank is strong enough to withhold any challenges in the market?
Yes.
All right, thanks, John.
Anyone else? I'm pausing and watching my screen. Okay, thank you very much, John and Brandon.
Then, correct, yeah.
Now-
And then suspend the rules, right, on that part.
Right now?
And keep going, yes. Yep.
Okay, so we'd like to, I'd entertain a motion to suspend the rules. Moved.
Your Honor?
Should we vote the first?
Yeah, actually, you're right, yeah.
This is Tom Warner. You got to vote the first.
Roger that.
consideration.
Okay, Brian, please, voting on the first consideration.
Grip,
Yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Peacock,
Yes.
Dickman,
Yes.
Jobson,
Yes.
Ambrose, Dunn,
Yes.
Dorman,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
and Lee.
Yes.
10 yeses, Your Honor.
Thank you. Now I'll entertain a motion for suspension. Motion and a second. Roll call to suspend, Brian, please.
Condon,
Yes.
Peacock,
Yes.
Dickman,
Yes.
Jobson,
Yes.
Ambrose, Dunn, Dorman,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
and Grip.
Yes.
10 yeses, Your Honor.
Okay, now Brandon, if you want to come explain quickly. We're good, though? Okay.
Yes, you're on passage of the second and third consideration.
Okay, so is there a motion and a second? Motion, second? Second, okay. Any discussion on second and third? I'm pausing. Okay, Brian, call the roll for second and third.
Peacock, Peacock,
We'll come back.
okay.
Pat just typed in that he dropped off the call for the voice, so yeah, you might want to give him a little bit to call
Yeah,
back.
we'll come back to it.
Okay, yep. Dickman,
Yes.
Jobson,
Yeah.
Ambrose, Dunn, Dorman,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Grip,
Yes.
Condon,
Yes?
Peacock,
Okay, we'll carry on. 9-0.
9-0.
Okay, that's, ordinance is adopted. Thank you, Brandon and John, for your good update and wonderful work. Okay, the next item.
Thank you. We'll be visiting tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, good. All right. The next item is the first consideration of an ordinance amending various sections in Chapter 2.58 to ban the practice of conversion therapy in the city of Davenport. Is there a motion, or I'm sorry, public with comment, anyone? Okay, in a second. So I will read. I said before, like last week and this week, that if there's any public comment, they can email me. I'm happy to send any of these emails to anybody who wants them, but I'll just quickly read the synopsis. There are 27 emails that I received, and I'll just go Philip, Miranda, Stephanie, Dylan, Isabel, Dale, Sarah, Kevin, Tim, Bill, Brent, Randall, Chris, Jennifer, Matt, Daniel, Nikki, Katie, Emily, Matt, Cassidy, Carrie, Erica, Becky, Chase, Christy, Bailey, Caitlin, and Katie, and then Vera French and Robert Young. From Davenport, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and then a few from St. Ambrose and Eldridge, and 2 from Rock Island. All in favor of us doing this ban, and the comments and summaries were, some of them have had loved ones who've experienced this trauma, the protection of youth, strong message of support, and then helping with our evaluation, and again, Vera French and Robert Young support. So those are, I'm reading, and I'm happy to send the emails specific to anybody who wants them. So other comments? Anyone up on the phone?
I have one.
Okay,
Mayor.
Matt, please. Alderman Dorman.
I also received a comment and email from the public. This is Matt Trimble, who lives in the 5th Ward, and he just wanted to state again that he urges us to support the addition of the conversion therapy ban to Davenport City Code, and that he has had family members that went through this abuse, and it has no place in our community. So I wanted to voice his concern as well with this, that he is in support of us passing this ordinance.
Thank you, Alderman Dorman. I have his also. Anyone else that would like to comment? Alderman Condon.
I appreciate everybody from the public lending their voice to this, and it's a little bit of a unique feel in the room here because we don't have a direct feedback, but I guess I just didn't want this to come and go on the agenda without somebody giving it a vocal support as well. So I very much support this. It seems that this brand of prejudice gets special consideration because it's done in an institutional or a clinical environment, but I back the voices of our citizens that it really has no place in our community.
Thank you, Alderman Condon. Anyone else? I'm pausing. And I'll just add my personal also that I think this has no place and that we should pass it right away. So, having seen no other discussion from any of my colleagues, okay. Brian, please call the roll.
Dickman,
Yes.
Jobson,
Yes.
Ambrose,
Yes.
Dunn, Dorman,
Yes.
McGinnis, McGinnis,
Yes.
okay, Lee,
Yes. Yes.
Grip,
Yes.
Condon,
Yes.
and Peacock.
Yes.
10 yeses, Your Honor.
Very good. Passes first consideration. Okay, let's see. We have the next one. Resolution approving a First Amendment to the letter of agreement dated April 24th, 2019 with Main Street, Iowa to insert the workout room addition project into the list of capital improvement projects to be completed at Modern Woodland Park and directing the city administrator to amend the FY20 budget to provide the necessary funding. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment? Any public out there? Yes, sir, please. Please state your name, ward, or address. We have one public coming to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. This is Joe Kubley, the General Manager of the Quad Cities River Bandits. For us, currently, we are at a fight for our lives to keep our team here in Davenport with the professional baseball agreement that's continuing to go back and forth between Major League Baseball and Minor League Baseball. The reasoning for wanting to push up the weight room is this is going to become a mandate, and this is going to be at the obviously top of our list of improvements to keep us as an affiliated baseball team here in Davenport for many more years to come. We thank you for the consideration here, as this is something that obviously we're going to have, or we look at losing our team, unfortunately, after the 2020 season when the agreement goes up for renewal, or they come up with a new sort of agreement for the future. Obviously, these agreements typically last long-term. This one is currently in the 25th year. So we are looking at an agreement that could last for another 20 to 25 years. So as I said before, we're kind of out here fighting for our lives with this, and we appreciate your consideration of this tonight.
Okay, sir, if you'd probably want to sit there. I don't know if anybody will have any questions, but just so you're close. Okay, I see on my motion and a second. Okay, now for discussion with my colleagues, I see Alderman Jobson.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. I had some feedback from some of the residents within the 6th Ward that have led to a few questions. And so I don't know if the gentleman from the River Bandits will be able to answer these, or if these will be Brandon's answers. So I'll try and go slow and not overwhelm. And so again, these items are budgeted for future years, and we are essentially just moving up this cost, not particularly adding to the overall cost for the addition of the flood wall, correct?
So I'm going to have Mr. Wright and, I apologize, Mr. Kubley kind of stand next to each other at the podium, and they can take this on together, whoever wants to answer each question that you have. So they're both at the podium ready for your questions.
Sure, I'll take that one. So the mechanism, and I think the City Council is familiar with this mechanism for many of the projects that we've agreed to, both in the original letter of agreement and this amended version, really looks forward and says that there, by contract, by the agreement, there are certain payments every year that we make to be invested into the ballpark, whether that be for improvements or for maintenance items. But there are certain dollars that are dedicated every year for that purpose. The mechanism that allows for some of that, for us doing the project now, is it's council approval to say, let's go ahead into a future year on that obligation and bring forward those funds now to be able to spend them today. So it's a combination of both funds that are dedicated to the ballpark, $600,000 for that into future years, as well as a $500,000 project that the city had budgeted for, I think it was our fiscal year 2026, for better flood wall protection at Modern Woodland Park. There is an area on the backside of the ballpark that the current flood wall does not extend to. We currently use sandbags in that, and that's the area where we typically have most of our failures. And it's also the area where we have to block off one of the egress doors that is important for exiting the building. And so there only is kind of one main way during a flood event for people to exit the building. So kind of it does two things for the city on that one. So it would be bringing forward those funds as well into the current year to be able to pay for it.
So again, Brandon, there will be those future years, then there will be no added cost into that budget, correct? We're just moving things forward.
Correct, yeah. You're always then increasing the budget in the current year to be able to pay for that, but we would offset that by in several years not paying for it then, correct?
And then Brandon, a question I had from residents is there any money taken from the general fund for these projects that would otherwise go to other projects within the city, i.e. people are worried about their road not getting fixed as a result of having to do this?
Yeah, so again, with those two portions of the payment for this, there's first those already committed capital improvement funds that we dedicate to the ballpark. Those wouldn't be used for another purpose, so those would remain in there at that $600,000. The $500,000 for the flood wall, those I guess the council could have discretion to change their minds during the 6-year horizon to say we don't want to do that project anymore and dedicate it to something else. But as of right now, it's been slated for the ballpark and for flood protecting that building.
Thank you very much. Just as an FYI, I did get some feedback, very little, but 2/3 of the residents that in the 6th Ward that commented upon my survey were favorable of these types of projects for the ballpark. I myself am favorable for this project. I had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Heller today, ask him some questions. I think this quality of life that we have and the use of the ballpark is something that we can hang our hats on here in the Quad Cities. I would hate to see it go away. I would hate to take the risk of seeing that go away. And so again, favorable for the project. I know the River Bandits, Mr. Heller, have been good corporate citizens. Speaking with him today, it was good to know that they have not laid off any of their employees during this pandemic, whereas some of his colleagues within the Midwest League have. And so I think that's a great show of support from an employer within our city and our region, and therefore that makes me further want to lend support his way. And I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next I see is Alderman Dorman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to also voice my favoritism for passing this right now. Alderman Jokic kind of already hit on some of my main points, but I'd really like to paint a picture here of the city of Davenport and where we may be and where specifically downtown could be without having the ballpark there, without having the River Bandits with the ballpark. That is the anchor of our riverfront. It is one of the main economic drivers for our city and for our downtown. And so to think about a time where we might not have baseball here because we don't have the proper facilities, that's something I really can't imagine. And we are in minor league baseball, we are going through some trying times where it is unknown what teams are going to make the cut, what teams are not going to make a cut. And to think that we would even take the risk on something like this that Brandon just laid out, the money was already slated to be spent in future years, to think we wouldn't act on this now in order to make sure we are on that list of teams that Major League Baseball decides to continue. I think that would be foolish of us to have that long-lasting economic impact on our downtown that would absolutely crush it. So I would also like, again, to mimic what Ben was saying about how the River Bandits and their organization and Mr. Heller specifically had to make some sacrifices in order to make sure that their employees were fully paid and still employed through the COVID-19 dilemma that we're facing right here. And this is just proving again that he is a community partner with us, and we should be one back to him. And I'm in favor of supporting this resolution to build a space for a weight room and flood wall. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Dunn.
Thank you, Your Honor. Last week I had asked the question of what the specifications were for the weight room. And we did get them back, and it says here are the relevant sections for new facility standards for Major League Baseball. These are for a new facility. And then I had responded back that I would like a copy of the most current and complete copy of Major League rules for baseball, including minor league facility requirements for new and existing facilities. I also am interested in seeing a copy of the most recent compliance audit conducted by Minor League Association Commissioner's Office for Modern Woodland Park as called out for in Major League Rules, MLR 58B. So if you look at the current rules that the baseball team is working under, it has different standards for brand new facilities and existing facilities. We got back a short email from Mr. Heller that new facilities and existing facilities are the same. Well, that's an email. I asked for a document. I'd like to see it before I dedicate $1.1 million of taxpayer money. I'd like to see it in writing, number one. Number two, Brandon, that money, that $500,000 is coming, where are we pulling that from?
Correct, yes. So the idea would be that you would allocate that money in the current year, right? Mm-hmm. And then essentially you would lower the amount of projects to be done in 2026 by that equal amount. So you keep a relatively level bond payment over time. Essentially, it's bonds that are funding that. So by issuing the bonds now, you're essentially just accelerating a little bit that debt schedule for that, and then you're not issuing the bonds later on,
which
so you
would
catch up after a couple of years.
Which would be projects not related to stadium. So currently, we're going to pull out $500,000 out of this year's budget to do something.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So somewhere, somebody's road's not going to get fixed.
Well,
or some facility's not going to get fixed.
It's not going to come out of a current project. No, so sorry if I didn't understand that correctly. It's not going to come out of a current project. This would be an amendment to increase the amount of money being spent in the current year by that $500,000. You would catch up to it in 2026. At that point, it would level off. So you'd be riding high for a couple of years on the amount that was spent.
Okay. So we just recently amended this less than a year ago to add $900,000 of capital improvement money for air conditioning. So that's an extra $900,000 that this council has already put towards the stadium. And now we're being asked to put another $1.1 million towards the same, towards a different project. So, I guess, with the fiscal uncertainty of the national economy, the uncertainty of the future of professional sports, the uncertainty of the long-term relationship between Major League Baseball and MILB, and the lack of clear, real requirements and not having the documentation, I'm a little skeptical. I know the priorities of the council are clearly public safety and infrastructure, and until we know more things certain about the economic recovery here of what's going on, shouldn't our priorities be police, fire, and public works? So I'm not going to be able to support this at this time.
You good? You all done? Alderman done. Thank you. Okay. Alderman Ambrose.
Thank you, Your Honor. This stadium has been an economic engine to our community for 100 years. We have the city owns the greatest minor league stadium in the country. We have a championship baseball team playing there. And I fully support this, and our hope is we will continue to have a great minor league stadium and a great minor league baseball team. What was a couple weeks ago, 9 members on this council were willing to step up to the plate for a playground in a floodplain next to a railroad track. So, we talk about funding. This is a proven economic engine for our great city. And this is our stadium. And I think keeping it a championship stadium, the greatest minor league stadium in the country, is a good investment. And hopefully, Dave will be able to work with Major League and get this accomplished. If not, then we'll probably go another way. I can remember the old days when Mayor Mattson was a quarterback on the Great Assumption football team, and they used to play down there. So hopefully we don't have to see that again.
Thank you, Alderman Adams. Yeah, you don't want to see me playing quarterback. I might have done some other things, but certainly not that. I appreciate that. Okay, let's see, who's next? Alderwoman Lien.
Thank you. I like to go to baseball games down there, but I don't like making decisions on emotions. So I had the opportunity to talk to David Heller and ask him some very detailed questions. One of the things that I asked him was, recognizing that we lost a lot of games last year due to flooding and because of the raising of the railroad track, I would suspect that that would be something that Major League Baseball would look at when they're looking at our ball team based on our ball field. So I was wondering how that would weigh against whether they had another weight room, a better weight room. And what he told me was that as of September 2019, they want to have all the same standards for whether it's a new ball field or an old ball field, so that everyone is getting the same opportunity to develop their players. So that would go into effect in September 2019. He said the decision is imminent on which of the teams, and they're talking about cutting back 42 teams to be contracted, trying to save money. I asked him about why couldn't they use the new workout room and the new Y? And he said that Major League Baseball is saying it cannot be off-site, again, because everyone needs to have the same opportunity to develop their players. So, and he also said that Major League Baseball is not going to give any more waivers for not being in compliance. And if they're not in compliance, they're going to hit the hit list, is what he said. One thing that he said that he had not answered because nobody had asked is, if he gets a new weight room in the team, there are some other things that are also not in compliance. The trainer's space, the coach's room, the manager's space, and space for a female coach. Now, by getting a new workout room, excuse me, he said the plan is the trainer's space would go to the existing workout room, coach's room would go to the trainer's space, the manager's space would go to the coach's space, and the female space would go to the manager's space. So what he was saying was, by giving a new workout room, it would take care of 4 other non-compliance issues that the ballpark currently has. They already know they're going to be losing games this year because of the virus. They lost a bunch of games last year because of the flooding and because of the raising the railroad track. I asked him, what's the worst thing that would happen if we waited 2 weeks to make sure we had all the information we needed, and then made a decision in the next cycle? And he says, they don't know when the letter's going to come out, identifying the teams that are going to be on the contraction list. He already knows of a couple. Once you're on the contraction list, you cannot work your way back off. And what he's hoping for is a decision, and I'm saying this is what he's hoping for, a decision tonight that we're committed and ready to hire an architect to get the weight room and the flood wall put together. and so that he can call the Astros, and then they can call Major League Baseball and say we're in compliance. Because if you're not in compliance, you're going to be on the construction list. So that's the information that I have. And apparently some of that information was not available because nobody asked the question about solving the other problems. So I just wanted to pass that on to you. Perhaps I can ask the general manager if I got everything correct.
Judith, you are correct. Dave and I have walked the ballpark probably 20 times since I came back to work here for a second time in October. So I can tell you currently, you are correct. So the other standards that we are going to have to come up with, we can shift some rooms around. Obviously, it's kind of hard to draw a picture for you over the phone and so forth, but where our current training room is, let's just say for the sake of it, it's on the south side of the current clubhouse. Then north of that is going to be currently a larger coach's room. North of that is then going to be a room for the head coach. So you are correct. All of that would then shift. Each room would shift theoretically one room south. So that would solve all those problems. There is some other rooms in the ballpark that we've looked at. They have talked quite a bit about female umpires, other female staff members, whether it's a coach, hitting, pitching, head coach, or a strength and conditioning or trainer. So those would be solved with having this new weight room. To kind of second what you said about the PBA negotiations, that is a valid point. They could come up tomorrow and say, okay, we're going to extend this for the next 30 years. Here's the teams that are in, here's the teams that are out. So to say this is urgent, yes, I would 100% agree with you. Obviously, we want this agreement to be done as soon as we can, and we want to be one of the teams that is on the new. Trying to think of the quick math in my head here. The new 120 teams. We don't want to be one of the ones that's the 42 that are left out.
Another question. One of the things we'd also have to think about is if it is one of those 42 teams, what do we do with that ballpark? And what would it cost to do the demolition? I'm just throwing that thought out there. I, of course, have no idea what that would be. But it sounds like the decision we make tonight is going to be the decision that will determine, not determine, that's too strong a word, I guess, because it's up to Major League Baseball, but lead very strongly towards whether the Bandits have a chance or not. Am I correct in that?
Judith, I don't think I could give you an exact answer there. I think we can go back to what Councilman Ambrose said was, I'm sure there could be another use for it. I don't know if demolition would be the right thing. I mean, we do have a great ballpark, and we're just trying to keep up with everybody else at this point, as we said, to have the same standard across the board. I can tell you this, where we currently stand. Obviously, for full-time staff members, we have 20 full-time staff members. For seasonal and part-time, we employ over 250 seasonal and part-time over the baseball season. So we do have a big community impact here, and I don't think you would get anything anywhere near that using the facility for a different need. Obviously, our goal is community. As I stated before, this is my second stint with the team. I used to be back here in 2014 and 15, and our goal has always been, let's give back to community. We got almost $500,000 given back to community this year. And that was even looking at last year with the flooding and so forth. So regardless of the circumstances or what we go through, community is always number one to us. And I just don't think you're going to get that from any other type of user that could possibly use that facility.
And I have one more question for Brandon, and then I'll be quiet. Brandon, regarding the budget process, if the council were to vote yes tonight, and then in 2 months, let's say, the letter comes out from Major League Baseball and the Bandits is one of the contraction teams, can we then amend the budget?
Just kind of as a accounting practice part of it, you don't need to amend a budget to bring it down. You only need to amend a budget to bring it up from that. Certainly, if things were to change with that, we would probably cease moving forward with construction. That would be pretty obvious on that part. And then there would be a lot of other things for us to work through with the team as far as the actual agreement goes for them to be able to use the facility there. So.
Ms. Lee, are you done?
I believe so. I think I understood what he was saying. So basically, if we were to vote yes tonight, but then they were to go away, then if we spent any money on an architect, but that would be as far as it would go. We could then realign the money to something else later.
Correct. Yeah, we would probably just stop on the project. It wouldn't necessarily take council action to stop. If the council wanted to take action, they could. But it would be pretty obvious at that point not to move forward with construction. So.
Okay, thank you. I'm done.
Okay, very good. Alderwoman McGinnis.
Thank you, Your Honor. I understand, I believe the gravity that the bandits are facing. I share Alderman Dunn's concerns about the commitment of the dollars that are set aside every year in the city's budget for the ballpark. This is yet another commitment, and I've only been on the council for about 2.5 years, and I've seen a major amendment. I sat down with Brandon when the last one came, and certainly the bandits are a great contributor to the city of Davenport. But in terms of financials, it's about a wash. Now, you could say, well, if it goes away, do other things go away? And I accept the wash. What I have grave concerns about are this, again, experiencing yet another extension, something coming forward, being put in place, and nothing coming out. We voted last year, I think it was for a party plaza shade covering. That's not going away because now we're doing this, something that that Major League Baseball is requiring. I understand that part of it. What I don't understand is a commitment to other things and that don't address the maintenance in the ballpark, and the fact we have no, we dole out the money. We have no oversight of these projects. So we're extending the commitments out in years, but we as a city have no oversight on these projects and their costs. We're just saying, yep, we accept the fact it's going to cost this, and we're handing it over. Now, I don't necessarily have a feeling about the flood wall portion of this because, quite frankly, that becomes part of our flood defense, in that part of whoever is in that ballpark. But I do have a concern about this, and it's very difficult for me to support because of that. We have a ballpark, and by the way, demolition would be a distant. This is not something the city would do if the river bandits left us, God forbid. That ballpark's been standing there for 70, 80 years. It's not going to be something the city's going to decide to demolish. So I don't believe. But in any case, I do have concerns that we continue to commit dollars in advance in the future. And again, this is my second experience. I've been on the city council 2.5 years. So is this going to happen again next year without some more stringent oversight by the city of how these dollars are being spent? That's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Peacock.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Mayor, and the rest of my colleagues. You guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you so very much. I listened to the conversation, and first of all, I want to thank my colleague, Alderman Dunn, Alderman Lee for their words and gave me some things to think about as we deal with this issue. And once again, thank Alderman Lee for doing a deep dive and asking the right questions about the river bandits. And before I go into my question, I just want to go on the record and say I am truly appreciative of all the river bandits have done for this community and what they have done for the riverfront. But however, I do have a question. The question is, even if we do allocate these funds for the improvement for the physical fitness center, once again, is there a guarantee that they won't be on the chopping block? And I guess there's a second question. That list of all the improvements that Alderman Lee talks about, are there other things that's not on that list that we don't know about, i.e. what else is out there wingling out there that we don't know about that the river bandits may come to ask the city council to assist in?
Certainly, yeah, there is no guarantee, right, that this would secure the bandit spot with that. The hope is that it would help, essentially is what the idea is. And then related to, are there other things at the ballpark that need to be fixed? And the answer is absolutely. That there are a number of projects at the ballpark to do. In the same way that when you think about your capital budget every year that the city does, right, there are lots of things that you would like to be able to fund that you can't get to. I think the last amendment that we did represents the priorities of those items that need to be done on the maintenance side, also balancing that with the team's desire to want to have new things at the ballpark to attract new visitors. So that was kind of what the last agreement represented, was kind of a balancing of those two desires.
So once again, even if we give them the 1.1 million or whatever the dollar amount is, there's no guarantee that the river bandits will stay in Davenport.
That is to say that they won't be contracted. You are correct. Yes, there's no guarantee that they won't be contracted. And I do want to just correct one idea, which is that we don't give the team $1.1 million. That's not how the agreements work. That's not how the funding works here. The city remains in control of all of those projects. The city has oversight over the managers, the design, the cost of all those projects. That's how those function. Every now and then there is a project that we specifically agreed to with the team where there's one that they're going to fund. The Ferris wheel, for example, was an example of that. But that was kind of a one-off. The majority, almost all the projects there are done. And certainly this project and the other ones that were on that list are all city-run projects. We maintain control of the funds. We maintain control of the oversight of the contracts.
That is all I have. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Alderman Grip.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have questions for both Joe and Brandon. I'll start out with Joe. Do we have any clarity right now on if the minor league baseball season will happen this year and how long it'll be?
So actually, a few reports came out today. There were a couple on, I believe it was the Washington Post and also ESPN, that Major League Baseball is currently figuring out if they're going to do a shortened spring training and jump right into the season. So as of right now, they are talking about mid-May. If that is the case, obviously everything trickles down from the top. So the Major League players get placed on the 40-man roster, and then those players from there get placed at AAA, AA, single A. So if they were to start mid-May currently, we could be looking at Memorial Day weekend or somewhere around June 1st. There has been some discussions about do we cut back on off days? Do we play some double headers? Do we not have our all-star break that we typically have and play games then? And even the possibility of extending the season past our normal, I guess you would say Labor Day week. We typically end that end of that weekend and have playoffs. So would they scrap playoffs? Would they let us play through the end of September? So as of right now, feasibly, we could play 60 to 70 games still. Realistically, I think we'll probably be in that 50 to 60 range. So yes, very optimistic right now about this. And like I said, these reports have been talked about. It's been pretty heavy the last 10 days with Major League Baseball, but the players do need to work out somewhere. Obviously, our number one goal is safety of fans, safety of staff, safety of the players. And with everything that's going on in the world right now, I don't think any of us have the answer at this point of when this will end and when it'll kind of, start to go back to, I guess we'd say, the norm. But yeah, if they're talking about, mid-May, I think they probably have some good information, or, they're talking to doctors or people who understand what's going on. So I don't think they would have the conversation if it wasn't worthwhile.
Okay. My second question is regarding the decision on which teams to contract for minor league baseball. When is Major League Baseball going to make that announcement?
That is a great question. They continue to negotiate. I can tell you we have league-wide calls every Friday. So we'll have one coming up this Friday where they currently stand. This negotiation's been going on since October. It's not easy by any means. I mean, we're looking, like I said before, to kind of come back around, is we're looking at a 20 to 25 year commitment here. Obviously, they have, Major League Baseball has different things that they want, which why we're here talking about the weight room currently. So an exact date, I would hope soon. But I can't guarantee you that.
There's not an expected timeline that they've given you.
No, they're continuing to work through it. Obviously, you're looking at 160 teams on the minor league level and 30 teams on the major league level. It's not exactly easy to get everybody at the same room at the same time. But
so the deal expires when?
September 31st of this year.
Right now, are we on the contraction list, or do you think we're not on the contraction list?
Not knowing all the standards, obviously Dave's on our board of trustees for some of the leagues and so forth. So for me to answer that, I think that not having these standards in place, yes, we're going to be a higher candidate. I think it goes back to many of the questions that were like, well, what happens if we do this and they still do get contracted? I think that if we have this weight facility, and as I explained before, we shift some of the rooms around for different uses, I think that takes us, from 50% chance down to a 10% chance, let's say. So it really takes the idea of our facility. Obviously, our facility is great. I can tell you that. I've worked at 4 sports teams. I've been to probably close to 100 parks. And our park is great. It's very good. And some of the parks that, even in our league that I can tell you are probably on that list already. Much different than where we currently stand, but we also are, 1 standard, 2 standards away from being in compliance currently of things that we had on waivers. Mm-hmm. So I would say yes, if we got this weight room, our chances of being contracted become slim to none.
So do you have to file that waiver annually? Like, have you already filed it for the 2019 season?
So that would be a Dave question. Unfortunately, I don't take care of that by any means.
Okay.
Apologize, I don't have that answer for you.
Oh, last question for you. Thank you. I know this is very difficult to stand fire. So my last question is, if we were to approve this resolution tonight, what is your timeline for getting the weight room built?
That might be, I don't know if you have a timeline or when.
Yeah, I was going to ask him the same question.
Okay.
I didn't know. I'm trying to see if you guys have the same timeline in mind.
Yeah, obviously for us, this would need to be done by the beginning of next season. So we're looking at April 1 of 2021.
Okay.
Before the start of our season, to guarantee that, hey, if we're going out there and saying, yes, this has been approved, yes, we're going to have this standard in place next year, then right, that would be what we were looking for, April 1 of 2021.
Okay. Cool. So my question for you, Brandon, is that's reasonable that we could get that done by April of 2021 if it's approved, right?
There are some questions that we need to work through, and particularly through that engineering and architect work that's going to be done. And the complicated part of this is that flood wall. And so since that engineering work hasn't been done yet, we would obviously move forward with that kind of right away. and then figure out what that timeline would look like after that. So I've spoken with Mr. Heller about that, and obviously this doesn't impact the stadium, the players during construction. So the nice part is you can be under construction during the season and not you don't have to kind of wait for the end of a season to get started with something. So that is in our advantage for that moving forward quickly. But the flood wall question is something that we need to address, and that's probably the most complicated part of the project.
Okay. And you can answer this, or Tom can answer this, whichever, if you feel comfortable answering it, then by all means, otherwise we'll ask Tom to weigh in. But if Major League Baseball decides to contract the River Bandits and they no longer have their affiliation, what becomes of the agreement that we have with Main Street Iowa?
Yeah, so I can answer if Tom wants to chime in with that, but the part of the agreement that we have with the River Bandits is that they have to have that affiliation. So if they go in default of having the affiliation, then they would be in default of their part of the agreement on that. At that point, we would look at what the remedies are relative to that, but it could include up to cancellation of the contract.
Okay. So here's my concern. I am generally in favor of this. If it's a requirement of Major League Baseball that we have the weight room and we want a minor league baseball stadium in our community, which I do, then we need to make sure that it's conforming by the 2021 season. I'm good with that. My concern is we expend money and then Major League Baseball still a little chance says, okay, even though you did this, even though you spent the money, you're up to code, you're one of the teams that is no longer affiliated with Major League Baseball, then we've spent the money and we can't get that money back. I don't think that the River Bandits are going to be contracted. I think the River Bandits are going to be here for the next 30 years. I strongly believe that we've got a good owner, we've got a good stadium, we've got a process in place that keeps the stadium in top shape, which is what we're talking about here. We put the maintenance money in there so that we don't have to have these tough conversations with Major League Baseball. So what I would like to do is, and tell me if you think this is necessary or we can just do it if it happens, but I would like to make a motion or amend this to say that if, as we're going through this process, if Major League Baseball decides to separate, that we would stop and not expend any money, and the target date for this is by opening day of next season.
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
Kind of what Tom would recommend with that. Certainly, I think you could probably add that onto this to the item here, that type of language. I don't.
Yeah, Alderman Grip, if you want to make that amendment, I think what I would say is you move to amend it to say that we're going to do this so long as the River Bandits aren't contracted and they are part of minor league baseball. So I think that would be your motion to amend it to do that.
Okay, thank you. And I think, in my opinion, just my viewpoint on this is, you guys get your weight room and the flood protection by the 2021 season, and we get the financial protection that we're not going to expend the dollars on an asset that wouldn't be necessary unless we're having a minor league baseball team that's affiliated with the major leagues. So I will make that motion that we would move forward with this, with the verbiage in there that so long as the River Bandits are affiliated with Major League Baseball.
There's a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Second. Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, very good.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor.
I'm listening. We just voted.
I don't know the proper. I don't know the proper way of asking for it. Can we get a voice vote? Because I don't know who all voted for this thing, who all didn't.
And
It was 10-0.
I thought I heard Marion. Ask Marion what her vote was.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm in charge, so thank you. Please don't if we can do a voice vote. Brian, please.
Dunn.
No.
Dorman.
Yes.
McGinnis,
No.
Lee,
Yes?
Grip,
Yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Peacock,
Yes.
Dickman,
Yes.
Jobson,
Yes.
and Ambrose.
Yes.
Looks like 8 yeses and 2 nos, Your
Very
Honor.
good. Okay, that motion passes. We still have more conversation. Alderman Grip, are you good? I'm done, thank you. Thank you. Alderman Dunn.
I was just wondering, can we get a copy of the new agreement? Of the new facility regulations?
That's something I have to reach out to Dave Helly for, but.
Yeah, I've reached out to Dave and haven't received it, and that's part of my issue is I don't get, I'd like to look at the whole thing and see what is actually required and what we actually need to do. So I'd like to.
That's a document I don't have access to, so Dave would have to be the one to give that to you, unfortunately.
Thank you. Well, could you pass that along to him that I'm looking for?
Please, sir. So an alderman asked for that, so please, Roger, okay? All right, are you good? Okay, and last one I see, I'm sorry, I know one's waiting to the end. Alderman Ambrose.
Thank you, Your Honor. You know, it's important that you and Dave realize, I can't speak for all the council, but I know I will do anything possible to make sure this contract continues with the bandits. And I think our mayor will do just about anything too, so please let us know.
Thank you, Alderman Ambrose. Anyone else? Okay, I see Alderwoman Dickman.
Thank you. I'll try to be pretty brief here since it's been a fairly vigorous conversation already. I don't personally engage in sporting activities or watch sporting activities. So I see this more in terms of the economic development side of things, that there are a lot of people who enjoy sporting activities and go to the games, and it's a really good anchor for some of our small businesses down there. And so I know it's kind of a strange time right now to be doing long-term planning like this, excuse me. But I think that we can hopefully walk and chew gum and handle dealing with the current crisis while also thinking about what is a wise way to utilize resources for future development. And this, I do think that this is economic development spending, and that economic development spending is always going to be controversial because there's always going to be a question of, well, is it going to be worth it? And I think that the data suggests that it has, and it will continue to do so. There are places where it's been spent and it was kind of a, if you build it, they will come, and they didn't. But based on the data that we have available, I would say that this is a calculated risk that's worth making. So that's all for me.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so I had a few comments. I appreciate again, as always, this council having good discussion, intelligent conversations, asking good questions. I've had lots of conversations with Mr. Heller, especially within the last year. I believe he is a real good owner and does do a great deal of work helping our community. I appreciate my colleagues asking the deep questions and making sure that the taxpayer money is certainly spent. And of course, Mr. Wright always does that watches that sincerely. So there's a few questions, sir, out there. I would encourage you to please do that by next week. But this is an important part of our city. And I'd ask, that stadium is a huge historical piece of Davenport, and I would encourage no discussion about anything with the stadium. This is, please, the discussion is whether we improve it for the River Bandits. So I support this project. Just help us with that by, sir, by getting the questions so that we can be fair to everybody that's the constituents of my colleagues. So thank you for coming tonight, and I look forward to continuing to work with you and Dave and the River Bandits, as Alderman Grip said, for decades to come. I hope my grandchildren, if they're here, are able to watch baseball in Davenport. So having said that, no one else, just making sure last time. Very good. Brian, please call the roll.
Jobson?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Dunn? Dorman?
Yes.
McGinnis?
No.
Lee?
With the amendment, yes.
No, we already did the amendment. This is on the regular motion.
With the amendment.
With the amendment. We've already voted the amendment.
With the amendment.
Grip?
Yes.
Condon?
Yes.
Peacock?
Yes.
And Dickman?
Yes.
8 yeses and 2 noes, Your Honor.
Very good. Resolution's adopted. Okay, next item is a motion for approval of all items on the consent agenda. There's a motion and a
Second.
second. Okay, Brian, please.
Ambrose? Dunn?
Yes.
Dorman?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Grip?
Yes.
Condon?
Yes.
Peacock?
Yes.
Dickman?
Yes.
And Jobson?
Yes.
10 yeses, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, all the consent are approved. Next item, we have 2 items under other ordinances, resolutions, and motions. We need a suspension to add these, so is there a motion for suspend? Second. And the second? Brian, please call the roll for suspension of the rules.
Dunn?
Yes.
Dorman?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Grip?
Yes.
Condon?
Yes.
Peacock?
Yes.
Dickman?
Yes.
Jobson?
Yes.
And Ambrose? 10 yeses, Your Honor.
Very good. The rules are suspended. So the first item is a resolution authorizing the debt service levy for fiscal year 21. Any public with comment? Anybody out there? No? Okay. Motion and a second. Any discussion from my colleagues? Very good. Brian, call the roll.
Dorman?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Grip?
Yes.
Condon?
Yes.
Peacock?
Yes.
Dickman?
Yes.
Jobson?
Yes.
Ambrose? And Dunn? 10 yeses, Your Honor.
Very good. Resolution's adopted. The next item is a motion authorizing the Human Resources Director to implement COVID-19 personnel items as identified, including an emergency leave policy and authorization to adjust any related collective bargaining agreements as necessary as required by state or federal legislation. Before I ask any public comment, I'm going to ask our Human Resources Director, Ms. Merritt, to come up and give a quick synopsis of the items she's asking us to consider.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor and City Council. I'm Mallory Merritt, HR Director. All right. Last week, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act was signed into law. It's effective through December 31 of this calendar year. And there's 3 key components that are related to this agenda item. The first is expanding FMLA to include COVID-19 related items. The second is an Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act. And then lastly, some health plan modifications that we are required to make. On the emergency paid leave, Just to simplify this, it really boils down to creating two separate buckets of emergency leave. The first is up to 80 hours of paid leave that can be used for a variety of reasons, such as for quarantine, if you're experiencing symptoms, if you have to take care of a child that has symptoms, or loss of childcare. The second one allows for up to an additional 10 weeks of leave, of paid leave. That would be after you've exhausted the first 80 hours. And again, it would just be for those who need this leave for childcare purposes. Next are health plan provisions. We are required under this mandate to provide for COVID-19 testing and also any related medical visits at 100%. So there cannot be a member share cost for that, and that would apply to both in-network and out-of-network. So we do need to amend our health plan to accommodate for that. So this agenda item, Alderman Dorman had contacted me yesterday and asked what are we actually approving here? So I just wanted to make that very clear. I'm asking really for four things. So one is to authorization to create those 80-hour paid leave banks, which is an extra benefit from what we have right now. To create the additional leave banks up to 10 weeks for people who need it for childcare purposes. To amend the city's health plan for the reasons that we talked about before. And then to adjust the collective bargaining agreements with our 6 unions to include this benefit in their contract. Happy to answer any questions, but that's the summary of what we're doing here.
Thank you. And I just want to again add huge thanks to you and to your staff, and again to our bargaining units, the negotiation that you conducted to work this out in the whole mentality and attitude of helping our citizens, our workers, and the citizens out. So I see one person, Alderman Dorman, has a comment.
Thank you, and thanks, Mallory, for having this presentation and getting back to me. I no longer have comments. Your presentation was exactly what I was kind of looking for. It cut out kind of halfway through our presentation, so I just asked that you maybe send this out to council afterwards. I think this would be, your PowerPoint would be nice for us to have, but I appreciate the work that you did, and thanks again for getting back to me on my email. So that is it.
Very good, and she's shaking her head. She's happy to do so. Anyone else? I'm pausing. Roger that. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Merritt. Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve. Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Brian, please roll.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Grip,
Yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Peacock,
Yes.
Dickman,
Yes.
Jobson, Ambrose, Dunn,
Yes.
and Dorman.
Yes.
10 yeses, Your Honor.
Thank you. Great win. Okay, is there any public with business? Seeing none. Any other reports, Ms. Spiegel?
One thing, if I could have the hall monitor enter.
Hall monitor.
Mr. Wright. So we had planned a big party on April 6th. We were gonna have Portillo's. We were gonna have a very shameless video with the best pictures that we've collected over the years. We'll probably still have a party. We'll invite you to the go-to meeting and eat Portillo's so you can see us doing that. And we will publicly shame you by all the great pictures we've collected and the videos. But thank you for your 10 years of service. We can't all get together, but I know you've meant a lot to this organization.
He'll fly us down for a party in Texas.
Could have gotten him a mug. Saved us $1 million.
Alderman Ambrose.
Thank you, Your Honor. First off, Brandon, I can remember when you first came to town, you were on your bicycle and drove by City Hall. And Craig Mallon grabbed you off the street. And it's been an incredible honor to be able to serve with you. And your leadership has put us in a great position. DeSoto is so fortunate to have you in your leadership. That's why they can't get you down there fast enough, Working with America's greatest city as long as you have, you'll be able to share a lot of knowledge, and maybe after 10 years, they'll start working their way up the list. So, but Brandon, I wish the best for you and your family. You're going to do an incredible job, and Texas is pretty nice place, weather-wise, but the traffic, it'll drive you back here. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Alderman Dunn.
Thank you, Your Honor. Brandon, it's been a pleasure to work with you. Anytime we've had a question, you've always been able to answer it. As somebody who's watched the budget over the years, quite a few years, I remember where we came from and where we are now, and I just want to say thank you, because right now we could be in a world of hurt if it wasn't for you. So, and did you get a new pair of cowboy boots?
I'm trying to find a size that fits.
Anyone else? And I already gave some of the comments, but I'll just reiterate. An example of your great work is what we're doing now because of, and many people have mentioned the terrible thing we're in, but the city's solid. And this little thing back here that talks about stable, you put that word on there because of the finances, as we all know up here, where it was years ago, and we struggled. And we, the council, years ago gave a direction to Ms. Spiegel and you executed that. And that stable part is keeping our city squared away, especially in times like this. So I just want to thank you, wish you the best, and safe travels. Please don't be a stranger when you can. So.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. It's kind of cool. Yeah, we don't have much clapping going on lately. So that's right. That was very good. I like that. All right. I apologize, Miss Alderwoman McGinnis. Marion, Miss McGinnis? I'm typing. Just shut up. We'll pause 1 minute before we kick you out of here, Mr. Ray, to see if she comes back on.
I'm here, Your Honor.
There you go. Very good. Have at it.
I'm sorry, I pushed the wrong button.
All good.
I just want to also say, this is Alderman McGinnis. I did sit as vice chair on the finance committee the first full year I was on council. And one of the things that Brandon really modeled well, Brandon, I want to recognize you for this, is everything people have said about your business acumen, you anticipate issues, you are always willing to sit down and go through explanations of very complicated things at times. The other thing you do extremely well is you lift up your employees. You do it on a consistent basis. You did it in meetings when I was on the committee. You brought your folks in, and you really developed them. So it wasn't all about Brandon. You have always lifted your employees up, and you've allowed them to shine, and they're very competent, and you've chosen well. But I think the environment you create as a manager, when you do that, creates even better employees. So I want to commend you for that, and just wish you the very best.
He's smiling and tearing-ish. Anyone else, just in case? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Be safe, keep your distance, have a good night. Nice.